Have you ever sat alone at night, staring at the ceiling, and felt a quiet fear crawl into your chest, not from pain or illness, but from the thought of what happens when this life, your life, ends? You're not strange. You're not alone. You're not broken. In fact, you're incredibly human. I'm Marcus Smart. I'm 67 years old. And let me tell you something I wish more people would say out loud. It's okay to be afraid of death. It's okay to wonder about what comes after. It doesn't mean you're weak or pessimistic. It means you're thinking deeply about something that matters, something that becomes more present as we age, even if we try not to look it in the eye. The truth is, for much of our lives, death feels far away. It's a distant echo, something that happens to others. We're busy building careers, raising kids, chasing dreams. But then we hit a certain age, and the noise of life begins to quiet down. We retire. The phone rings less. Our calendars are less crowded. And in that stillness, a new awareness settles in. This won't last forever, and that thought it can shake you. It can even take your breath away. But I want you to know, this conversation today isn't about sadness or despair. It's about freedom. Because once we understand this fear, once we sit with it instead of running, we begin to loosen its grip. And when that happens, we can live the years we have left with more clarity, peace, and even joy. So let's start with a question. Many of us are too afraid to ask. Why are we so afraid of death? For some, it's the fear of pain or suffering. For others, it's the fear of being forgotten. But the deepest fear, the one most people carry quietly, is the fear of not existing, of disappearing, of no longer being someone. And that's what this video is really about. Because if we think of ourselves only as a body, a name on a door, a title on a business card, then of course, death feels terrifying. If you spent 40 years being the teacher, the manager, the provider, or the fixer, then losing those roles feels like losing yourself. So when we look ahead to death, we're not just fearing the physical end. We're fearing the loss of identity. But let me offer you a different perspective. You are not your job. You are not your resume. You are not your house or your degrees or your calendar full of appointments. You are the moments you made someone feel seen. You are the kindness you gave when no one was looking. You are the stories you told, the laughter you shared, the tears you held space for. You are your spirit, your energy, your presence. And the beautiful truth is those things don't disappear. No. I know that doesn't answer the spiritual question. What actually happens after we die? That's something every culture, every religion, and every soul has wrestled with. Some believe in heaven. Others believe in reincarnation. Some feel certain there's peace. Others fear a void. And still others, well, they just don't know. And it's okay. It's okay not to know. In fact, the not knowing can be a kind of sacred space. It can be a place of curiosity, not dread. What if, instead of thinking of death as an end, we saw it as a transition? What if we approached it not with terror, but with the same wonder we had as children looking up at the stars? I remember once, years ago, sitting with a friend who was dying. She said something that has stayed with me every day since. She said, "I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid I didn't really live." That hit me hard, because it made me realize something powerful. What we're most afraid of isn't the moment of death. It's reaching the end of life and feeling like we missed it. We fear that we've wasted time, that we waited too long to forgive, that we stayed too quiet when love was standing right in front of us, that we were too busy to dance in the kitchen or walk barefoot on the beach. or tell the people we loved how much they meant to us. And you know what? That fear, that regret, it's not a death sentence. It's an invitation. An invitation to start living right now. You see, the fear of death becomes smaller when life becomes fuller. When we stop focusing on what we'll lose and start focusing on what we still have. And believe me, if you're breathing right now, you still have something. A moment, a choice, a voice, a heart that still beats. If you're watching this, you're alive. And that means there's still beauty waiting to be noticed, still memories left to make, still healing that can happen. So maybe the question isn't just, what happens after we die? Maybe the better question is, what can I do while I'm still here? Can you forgive someone, maybe even yourself? Can you write that story you've carried for years? Can you laugh with your grandchildren without checking your watch? Can you let go of the anger that's been aging inside you? You see, death is a mirror. It shows us what we truly value. And the closer it feels, the more urgent it becomes to live in alignment with those values. This isn't a conversation about endings. It's a conversation about meaning. And here's something else. I believe with all my heart. Death doesn't cancel your story. It completes it. And you, yes, you are the author of every page between now and the final chapter. You still get to choose the tone, the words, the message you leave behind. What do you want that message to be? Because when you start answering that question, fear begins to turn into peace. Not because you've solved the mystery of what's after, but because you've decided to live with purpose now. And the amazing thing? That's what people remember. Not how much money you made, not how clean your kitchen was, but how you made them feel, what you stood for, what you taught them about living. That's the legacy. That's the soul of your life. And maybe, just maybe, death isn't the opposite of life. Maybe it's part of it. The last brushstroke on a painting, the final note in a song, the closing scene of a great story. And you, my friend, are still in the middle of yours. Let's talk more about what that means. If you're still with me, it means this conversation has found its way into your heart. And I'm grateful for that. Because let's be honest, most people don't want to talk about this. Even fewer want to listen. But you're here, showing up for yourself, asking big questions, sitting with discomfort, and that takes real courage. In part 1, we talked about the fear of death being deeply connected to the fear of not truly living, of reaching the end and realizing we didn't give our days the meaning they deserved. Now, let's go a little deeper. Let's talk about what happens when the fear of death starts creeping into everyday life quietly, subtly shaping how we feel, how we act, and how we see ourselves. You might recognize it in the small ways. Maybe you find yourself worrying more at night, your thoughts racing, your heart beating just a little faster. Maybe you notice you're more cautious than you used to be, hesitating to travel, to try something new, to say yes to invitations. Or maybe you've become more distant, keeping emotions and conversations at arm's length, because something about the future feels too uncertain. These are normal responses, but they can quietly steal the joy out of our days if we're not careful. The truth is, fear that lives in the background of our lives can be more draining than any illness. It can rob us of presence, of spontaneity, of connection. And worst of all, it can make us start shrinking before our time, pulling back from life, retreating into routines, saying no instead of why not. But here's something powerful. I've learned, both from my own journey and from watching others face the same storm. You can make peace with death, not by controlling it, but by becoming more alive. What does that mean? It means reclaiming your days from fear, It means reminding yourself every morning that life is not a countdown, it's a canvas. That there's no perfect age to laugh hard, to cry deeply, or to do something that scares you just a little bit. It also means acknowledging that fear doesn't have to be the enemy. In fact, fear is often a teacher in disguise. When you feel fear rising in your chest, ask it, what are you trying to show me? Often, fear of death is a reflection of something unresolved in life, a relationship not mended, a dream left behind, a truth we've been afraid to face. And facing those things, even slowly, is like opening a window in a stuffy room. It brings clarity. It brings air. It makes room for peace. Let me tell you a story. A man I once met, 72 years old, retired after a long and stable career. But after retirement, he fell into a quiet kind of despair. Not dramatic, just dull. He felt invisible, like the world had moved on and left him behind. And beneath that sadness, he admitted to me that what really haunted him wasn't loneliness. It was the creeping thought that maybe, without his title, without the job, he didn't matter anymore. And if that was true, then dying didn't just feel scary, it felt pointless. But then something small changed everything. He started volunteering once a week at a community garden. Just planting, watering, chatting. Nothing big. But he said something remarkable. I started to feel like I was leaving little pieces of life behind me again. Like I was growing something that would outlast me, even if it was just tomatoes. Do you see how beautiful that is? He didn't run from the fear. He gave into life. And in doing so, he made peace not with dying, but with living well until then. You don't need a dramatic transformation. You don't need to write a bestseller or climb a mountain. Sometimes peace comes from the smallest shifts. Saying yes to a walk with a friend, picking up an old hobby, writing a letter to someone you've never forgiven, or simply sitting under a tree and letting yourself be still without needing to be useful, because you are already enough. There's another layer. Here I want to gently touch on the spiritual side. Whether you have strong religious beliefs, some quiet hope, or no clear idea at all, almost everyone nearing the later chapters of life starts to wonder what lies beyond. Is there something? Is there nothing? Will I see the people I loved again? Will I still be me? And here's the truth. No one knows with certainty, but millions of people across cultures, across centuries, have carried the same wonder. And that, in itself, is a kind of comfort. It means you're not strange for wondering. You're part of something deeply human. Some people find peace in faith, believing in heaven, in reunion, in divine love. Others find peace in the idea that the energy we carry returns to the world, recycled into the soil, the sky, the stories of others. Some find peace in mystery, just trusting that whatever comes, they will meet it with the same courage that got them through this life. Whatever you believe, the most healing thing you can do is live today in alignment with that belief. If you believe in kindness, be kind. If you believe in love, give it freely. If you believe your soul continues, then feed that soul with beauty and truth now. Because belief isn't just what you think, it's what you live. I want to leave you with this thought before we continue. You're not here to defeat death. None of us are. You're here to leave behind something richer than fear. A feeling, a memory, a ripple that goes on long after you do. And maybe that's the most powerful answer to the fear of what comes after, to become someone who mattered while you were here. So let's keep going. Let's talk about what happens when we stop being afraid and start choosing meaning, one moment at a time. Let's keep this conversation close to the heart. You know, there's something powerful that happens when we finally stop fighting the fear and instead begin listening to it. For many of us, especially after 60, that fear of death isn't just about the unknown. It's about unfinished stories, unspoken words, regrets we've quietly carried for decades. Sometimes it's not death we fear, it's the thought that we haven't truly lived as we could have. But what if I told you it's not too late? Let's just pause for a moment and breathe. Right now, in this moment, you are alive. Your heart is beating. You are here. And that is something sacred. That is something real. And from this moment forward, you can choose to live more freely. Not despite death, but because of it. See, when you acknowledge death not as a punishment, but as part of a natural cycle like winter, following autumn, something softens inside. You begin to value your mornings a little more. The sun through your kitchen window feels warmer. A smile from a stranger lingers longer in your memory. The small things become precious. And the big fears? They don't disappear completely, but they lose their grip. Many people find comfort through spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, connecting with something greater than themselves. Others feel peace in nature or when spending time with their grandchildren. Some even find healing in creativity, writing letters they never send, painting memories, or telling their life stories aloud. You don't need to have all the answers about what comes next. None of us do. But you can build a relationship with this part of life. You can talk about it with the people you trust. You can ask questions. You can say, yes, I'm afraid sometimes, but I'm also still curious. And what a gift that is, to be curious in your 60s, 70s, even 90s. Curiosity keeps the heart open. It keeps the soul awake. I recently spoke with a woman named Eleanor, who is 84. She said something that moved me deeply. She told me, I used to dread the idea of dying, but now I think of it as just another adventure. A door I haven't walked through yet. And until then, I want to love better. I want to laugh more. I want to forgive. What would your days look like if you lived with that kind of softness? Not fearlessness, but gentleness, acceptance, peace. You've walked through storms in life already. You've said goodbye to loved ones, endured illness, loss, and the quiet ache of change. And you're still here. That alone is proof of your strength. So maybe today is the day you begin to speak to your fear, not to silence it, but to understand it. Ask it what it needs. Ask it what it's protecting. Then gently remind it, you've lived a life. You've mattered. You still do. If you're watching this and thinking, I've wasted too much time, I want you to hear me clearly. You haven't. As long as you're breathing, there is still time to heal, to love, to laugh. Even if it's just one more sunrise, one more letter written, one more walk by the sea, it's yours. You get to choose how that moment feels. And maybe that's what makes the fear soften. Not avoiding the idea of death, but embracing the beauty of everything that still comes before it. You are not alone in your fears. But you are also not alone in your power to turn fear into something more sacred. Perspective, gratitude, presence. Here's to the courage to keep living with heart. Here's to looking at life, even now, with wonder. And if you're still listening, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up for yourself, and for others who might feel the same way, but don't yet have the words. You are the story. You are the legacy. You are not the end. You are the bridge between generations, between what was and what can still be. Let's live that truth together. Asterisk, if something in today's video made you feel seen, understood, or just a little more at peace. I'm truly glad. Please leave a comment below. Share your thoughts, your fears, or what brings you comfort when you think about life's final chapter. Don't forget to hit the like button if this conversation touched your heart. And click subscribe so you won't miss more soul deep talks like this. We can't avoid death, but we can choose how we live before it comes. Thank you for staying with me until the end. I'm Marcus, and I believe that growing old isn't the end. It's just a pause before something still worth living for.